Execute Order 66, Brick Fanatics, because the latest wave of LEGO Star Wars sets to be revealed have a definite theme. We're definitely in the prequel era here. We are specifically looking at the moment in which a bunch of Jedi get shot in the back. If you're interested in purchasing any of these sets, by the way, you can help out Brick Fanatics by using the affiliate link, which is in the description, or the QR code that is on screen. They take you straight to the LEGO website, and we get a percentage of the sale when you purchase through those links. Doesn't cost you a penny extra, but it helps to keep the lights on at Brick Fanatics, helps to keep us making videos. Clone Wars, Clone Troopers, and everything vaguely Kaminoan has long been a mainstay of the LEGO Star Wars catalogue, but even going back just a few years, it was rare to see more than one or two of these sets on store shelves at the same time. It is very clear that the LEGO Group has realised just how potent a moneymaker it is to just keep making clones. That's not all that's been revealed though. We're also getting this cute little Slave One, which is a little bit smaller and a little bit more affordable, although that is relative, compared with the UCS Slave One that we got earlier in the year. I caught myself, I was almost going to say that this set doesn't contain any clones. It doesn't contain any clone troopers. It does have a clone in here, but I don't normally think of Boba Fett as being in the same kind of category as all of the clone troopers, simply because he's a real boy, right? While looking at Slave One in particular here, I did just want to point out, yep, as you can imagine, all of the prices for the sets that we're talking about today are taking the mickey. They are all a little bit higher than they should be. I feel like it is the most pronounced with the little baby Slave One here, simply because it feels like this should be 20 to 30 pounds or dollars cheaper. What are you gonna do? The mouse has got to make his buck. Don't forget, by the way, to hit that like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell. It really does help out the channel more than you might think. I wanted to talk about the minifigures in here because this is part of an ongoing saga with Ultimate Collector Series minifigures, where the LEGO Group is trying and often failing to please everybody. So with these Ultimate Collector Series sets, you often get a nice fancy new minifigure, something that is a cut above the rest, something that makes you feel like you've had an exclusive premium experience from your minifigure. And the problem with that is that not everybody can afford these Ultimate Collector Series sets, and so a lot of people end up feeling like, oh, I really want that minifigure, but I can't justify the hundreds and hundreds of pounds it would cost to buy it. The LEGO Group has toyed with either not putting in a fancy minifigure, in which case people are upset because why am I not getting a cool minifigure in my Ultimate Collector Series set, or they've toyed with taking that fancy minifigure and putting it in a smaller set like a microfighter or even a keyring, and that doesn't tend to go down very well either, because then the people who have bought the big fancy expensive sets have said, I thought I was getting something rare and valuable, and now it's just everywhere and very common. So the solution this time around is to give us a Slave One set that is smaller and cheaper, although still quite expensive for what it is, and is generally a bit more affordable, that's got a Jango in there, it's got a Boba in there, it's even got Lama Su, hello, I wasn't expecting you, which is just wonderful for anybody who wants a Slave One but doesn't want a big, expensive Slave One that's going to set you back a decent chunk of change, but not several £100 worth. And that's great. This is a really good idea. I would love for the LEGO Group to do this going forward. It makes absolute perfect sense to have the fancy big one for people who want the fancy big one, and have a play set at the same time for people who just want a smaller set, something that they can display or play with without having to break the bank entirely. The Boba minifigures for these two sets are identical, and that's fair enough because I don't think the Boba minifigure was ever the draw for the Ultimate Collector Series set. But the Jango minifigure is slightly different because the one included in this smaller set doesn't have arm printing. It is a small detail, it is a tiny minor concession, it is something which is probably actually a slight logistical headache for the LEGO Group because it means that they've got to manufacture two different types of torsos here, but it is an attempt to say, alright, we've put out another Jango, it's out there in the wild, but it is not quite as nice as the Ultimate Collector Series one, so the people who have paid for the Ultimate Collector Series Slave One still are getting something that is unique to their set. I don't know how well this is going to work as a solution. I have yet to see how the LEGO fandom in general is going to respond to this. I think it's admirable that they're attempting this. I don't think that taking away the arm printing really ruins this minifigure at all. I think that hopefully this is the kind of thing that solves the big problem about exclusivity of fancy Ultimate Collector Series minifigures. Either way, I do think this is an adorable little Slave One. I love this kind of size to a Slave One. It reminds me of the earliest days of LEGO Star Wars and the Boba Fett Slave One that we got way, way back in the day, which is one of my favourite old school sets. And so having something like that and that kind of size again is always exciting to me. Now, speaking of UCS sets, we're also getting this Ultimate Collector Series AT-ST. It is neat. I can't help but just glaze over it though when I look at all the other cool stuff in this new reveal list, because everything else here feels a little bit more interesting. We've had an awful lot of display sets this year already. The UCS AT-ST doesn't really get a look in when I'm distracted so easily by everything else new and shiny here. But if I'm completely honest here, the two of these LEGO sets that are the most exciting are the ones that are based on Order 66. Now you at home can recreate the moment in which Ki-Adi-Mundi turns around and just has that moment of realization shortly before being gunned down by his own soldiers. It's quite a dark scene to recreate in LEGO form, maybe not quite as dark as the Smeagol gift with purchase that we got earlier this year, but certainly, yeah, bit emotive. Although, of course, the Jedi do get what's coming to them, given that they are supposed to be a religious order that respects life above everything else, and yet for some reason have decided, yes, let's go to war commanding an army of children who have been genetically tampered with so that they age faster than they should do. Leaving aside anything else that should have made any self-respecting Jedi go, nope, 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 nope. I'm not saying that Count Dooku was right about everything, I'm just saying he was right about some things. Now, for some people here, the best of these minifigures is going to be the one that lets you recreate the "what about the droid attack on the Wookiees" meme. But for me personally, I love that we've got a new Aayla Secura, one of my favourite Jedi characters, and one of the very few LEGO Star Wars minifigures to have debuted first in a comic rather than in a film or in a show. Aayla Secura was not created by George Lucas, she was created by Jan Duursema and John Ostrander, who were working on Star Wars comics at the time. Jan apparently was looking for a new character to be the centre of this story that they wanted to tell, and she was watching episode 1, and in the background of one of the scenes on Tatooine, she sees this guy, and she's like, that's him, that's our protagonist, that guy there is going to be our new hero. I mean, I say hero. The point of Quinlan Vos is that he's kind of the Wolverine of Star Wars, where you don't entirely always know where his morality lies, and of course, he's got a big old case of amnesia.
Who am I? For I have amnesia!
The Star Wars Twilight comic, which tells the story of how Quinlan Vos shows up in the middle of Mos Espa, but then doesn't go and help his buddy Qui-Gon Jinn, is the story of a Jedi who gets amnesia and is then like, what's going on? Where am I? Who am I? Wow, cool, I can make lightning come out my fingers. That kind of thing. So what happens essentially if you take a Jedi but remove all of the training, all of the knowledge and the wisdom that a Jedi would have, and just let him go nuts with these magic powers that he has without a full understanding of why he needs to be in control of those powers. It's a fun idea, and over the course of the story, which plays out a lot like a detective story, Quinlan Vos manages to piece together who he is, where he came from, and why he lost his memories, and then also manages to track down his Jedi Padawan, who also has amnesia, Aayla Secura.
Does anyone here not have amnesia?
I don't know.
The amnesia angle gets dropped fairly quickly, but these characters end up showing up in a bunch of different comics. They prove quite popular, especially with George Lucas, who, as mentioned in a previous video, is a big fan of comics. One thing that George Lucas doesn't get credit for enough, in my opinion, is he always had his eye on the expanded universe. Not like really, really in-depth, not like desperately looking at everything and reading every single book or every single comic or playing every single computer game, but he would just kind of glance at this stuff and just be aware of it, and tried his best to incorporate all of the stuff that all of the other writers and artists are doing into the films. So, for example, you get the Outrider, Dash Rendar's ship from the Shadows of the Empire Nintendo 64 game, which shows up in the background of the special edition for A New Hope. You also get the planet Coruscant, which was the name given to the galactic capital in the Timothy Zahn novel Heir to the Empire, and George Lucas just uses the same name for his planet because why would you bother changing that? It's something that the fans are already used to, and that works very well. In the case of Aayla Secura, apparently George Lucas was looking at a bunch of Star Wars comics while working on Attack of the Clones. The film is basically done. Most of the filming has been done, and yet he sees this picture of a Twi'lek Jedi who's doing something cool, and he's like, she's really, really neat. I want to put her in my film. I don't care that the film is mostly filmed already. I want to throw her in there. So the process of finding an actress to play Aayla Secura is fairly quick and easy. Rather than casting anybody, they just go down the line of people who are working at Industrial Light and Magic, and they're like, you, visual effects producer Amy Allen, you'll do the job, and she is just chosen to be Aayla Secura. I think that's pretty brilliant. She was just working on the film anyway, and someone said, quick, get up in front of the camera. And she was like, oh, yep, all right. And they said, well, hang on a second, because you are going to be half naked and painted blue. And she was like, it's Star Wars. And bless her, she did really commit to her performance. She was worried that the blue skin paint that she was covered in might smear or smudge over time if she was wearing deodorant, so she decided to just go without deodorant. Everybody there knows her very well. They're all her colleagues that she sees every single day, and one of them at one point says to her, gee, Ames, you stink. And she's just like, yep. It's Star Wars. I have a massive amount of respect for somebody who will not only go through that, but will also then tell everybody about it afterwards in interviews. That is pretty darn cool. Amy then was able to reprise her role as Aayla Secura for Revenge of the Sith, where we get this heartbreaking scene where she is shot on Felucia by all of her clone troopers. The set that features this minifigure also contains Commander Bly, which is very nice to have. Good to have a little yellow clone trooper for the first time in a while. Quinlan Vos was also meant to be in the Order 66 montage, but was ultimately cut from the film. He is still mentioned in an offhand reference by Obi-Wan Kenobi, though.
Master Voss has moved his troops to Boz Pity.
So he is definitely supposed to be canon within that film, and of course he shows up in Clone Wars later on. More recently, he also gets name-dropped in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which really just feels like a tease.
Quinlan was here.
Anyway though, that is all of the new LEGO Star Wars sets that have been revealed today. Which of these are you going to be picking up? Let us know in the comments down below, and do all of the rest of the YouTube things. Give this video a thumbs up, hit subscribe and the notification bell. Do make sure that if you're purchasing any of these sets or anything else from the LEGO website in the near future, that you use the affiliate link which is in the description, or the QR code that is currently on screen. You can go to brickfanatics.com for coverage of all things LEGO Star Wars, and sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.